Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of Gadget Nation. Here I am in Publica, specifically RA Fine Arts Gallery. So big shout out to them for letting us sit here today, check out the artwork, and of course bring you today's episode. Also, thanks to the guys at San Francisco Coffee and Monaro Sunway for hosting us for some of our reviews. Now on that note, what did I review? What have we got in store for today's episode? All will be revealed over the next half hour or so. Let's start off with a little bit of news.
Today we've just launched our Yes to Rio campaign, which is basically an online contest. We have 3 really amazing games that anyone in Malaysia can play. But for those that are 18 and above, they have the ability to actually win amazing prizes. On a weekly basis, we're giving away signed autographed jersey from famous footballers, which is really, really cool. And the grand prize, this is awesome. The grand prize is that we're sending 2 lucky guys, or gal, to Rio de Janeiro, all expense paid, to watch the final match.
And every time we see Samsung launch something, it is big news. I mean, it's absolutely huge. And it does not come any bigger than the S5. That's what we got our hands on this week, and on one of the accessories that comes with the device as well. So how does it compare to last year's phone? How does it stack up against some of the competition out there from the likes of HTC? Well, let's just find out a little bit more. I've been inundated with so many devices here, I've kind of lost track of what's happening. But let me focus. The key products we're focusing on here are obviously from Samsung. As you can see, we have the brand new Galaxy S5. We also have the Gear 2. Incredibly hyped up devices. Every time Samsung launches something, especially their flagship models, you know it's big, big news. It will reverberate around the world. Competitors will sit up and take notice. It really, really, really is a giant in the Android field of phones. But for the purpose of comparison, just a very light comparison I should add, I have brought some other phones with me just for you to take a look at. So this is obviously the S5. Now, another big competitor to it, I would have to say, and weighing in slightly heavier, would have to be the HTC One M8. So this came out just for the S5, and well, they look very different indeed. I mean, just the backs, very different. Something a bit, well, dimply now on the S5 back cover, something which you haven't really seen on the Galaxy S4, obviously, or the S3, or the ones before that. But this nice metallic one we have from HTC, well, stands out a little bit more. It's very sleek looking, this M8. Now, if you compare it to LG G2, and this one looks a bit more like the S4. It really does have more than a passing resemblance, and even the interface itself as well. On the M8, it looks very different. Now, the best phone to compare the S5 to, what it really comes down to, is of course the S4. So I have here an example of one of my colleagues' S4s versus the S5. You can see it's a bigger screen. It's a very bright screen as well. The buttons are roughly in the same place, as you can see, but there's a massive difference. I mean, the screen on the S5 really is astounding. More on that later. Very exciting. I don't have an iPhone 5S here to compare with, but I felt that we should go with Android, seeing as that's exactly who Samsung is competing with in this category. But obviously, a lot of people will still be comparing this to whatever Apple has to offer. Ah, the S5. Very exciting indeed. And you know what? I really like the feeling of it. It feels very nifty. So before we talk about it, let's just focus on the specs. There you have it. Very, very powerful, as you can see. And just like the M8, it's using the 801 processor, quad-core, obviously 2.45 gigahertz. Now that for me makes a difference because it seems to be so much better at channeling the power so that you're getting more battery life out of this. I would say it's very comparable in terms of a battery test. That's a key issue for me with the M8. Both of them vast improvements over the S4 and the M7. So plus points right there to Samsung because I had a big issue with the S4 and its battery life. But now you can probably go a good full day without having to worry about anything. Now let's focus on some of the changes on the exterior. IP67 rating, which means you can go to about a meter of water for 30 minutes, but I do not in any way advise that you go well above the parameters that Samsung have set. So right here at the bottom, we've got the USB port. Now, unlike the previous ones, as you can see right there, it's got a flap to protect it. Now, this is a very nifty little camera, 16 megapixels I should add. Obviously, there's lots of different things you can do inside with the camera. You can do your slow motion videos, etc. I did test it out. A little bit pixelated in my opinion, not as good as I expected it to be, but pretty nifty nonetheless. Now, this little bar right here is actually for your heartbeat as well. So Samsung have really gone heavy focus on health. I'll focus more on that in a bit, but how it works is you put your thumb there, you open up the app, and your heartbeat will be monitored in that sense, and you can keep track of it, etc., to see how healthy you are. This is a very nifty screen. So I think that's another basic they went back to. It's about 432 ppi, which is obviously very high, but more than the ppi, it's just the color, the palette is absolutely astounding. I mean, I'm just going to turn it up to full. This is on half brightness, so I'm going to turn it up to full brightness just to give you an indication. I mean, it is marvelous to look at. It is stunning. Okay. Playing around here with the new Samsung Galaxy Gear. Pretty nifty. Let's take a look at the specs. Now, this one is a little bit different from what we've previously seen in its predecessor, and I think it really is a vast improvement. I mean, firstly, if you just look at it, it doesn't look too different, but then you'll notice some other changes. For example, if you've seen the original Galaxy Gear, you know that the camera is actually on the strap. Now, this time around, the camera is actually right there on the actual device itself. So obviously, that's going to make angling pictures much better, much easier. And in fact, the camera just generally overall is better. I mean, you can shoot 720p videos, you can do all sorts of things with it as well. The autofocus works pretty well as well, just like the previous one, and you can snap pretty fast if you ask me. Now, this does also mean if you don't like this strap right here, you can actually just remove it like such. There's a little clip here, which once you pull it right there, you can then pop it out, as you can see. That means you can change the strap to whatever you want. You can put a leather strap, brown, white, whatever rocks your boat. So I like having that aspect of being able to play around and have some fun with the strap, colorize it a little bit, I guess you could say. Now, there's other things here. Yes, the cover, the screen itself will show the time, but now if you double tap here, it'll give you options of menus as well, so you can put whatever things you want there, etc. So obviously, that's pretty cool. And right below it is, yes, you guessed it, just like on the phone, it's another heartbeat sensor. So in terms of the health, you can monitor how your heartbeat is, sync it up with your phone, and it's good to go. What do I think about these devices in closing? From this 1.63-inch AMOLED screen to the super 5.1-inch AMOLED screen. I think they're both great. I think they're both fantastic. They go very well together. Vast improvements on what we've seen in the past. Samsung have done very well to listen to what the customers want, and crucially, have gone back to basics for their phone, knowing there's some incredibly stiff competition out there. I mean, little things like battery draining steps on the phone. Now, quick settings, you can actually access it by the menu underneath. 3 icons can now be changed by you to what you want. So instead of previously having to swipe to what you need, that can take up battery. Now it's much easier. The 3 things you use the most can now be accessed the fastest way possible. Easier for the consumer, easier in the battery life, full stop, better.